Our journey begins in the cool temperate rainforests of the Dandenong Ranges. Here we'll be discovering all kinds of life, like this eastern yellow robin and this eastern whipbird. Here we see a pair of tawny frogmouths as the iconic sound of a kookaburra echoes through the forest. But all is not what it seems, for that sound is an imposter. One with a tail so majestic that it's displayed on our nation's 10-cent coin. Superb lyrebird, expert mimic. It's not just kookaburras that they imitate, but a wide range of birds and other sounds, with incredible accuracy. With this mixture of imitations and their own unique sounds, parts of their song are painfully loud at close range. It's no surprise they can be heard from up to a kilometre away. They'll often seek higher ground to project their song further, and although lyrebirds are poor at flying, he's had no problem scaling this 20-foot tree. And when the song's over, he'll glide back to the ground with ease. Back on the forest floor, there's foraging to do. Scratching away at the leaf litter, he feeds on a diet of worms and insects. In doing this, he displaces a staggering amount of soil each year, which has a profound impact on the ecosystem. Smaller birds will often follow closely, like these yellow robins, hoping to clean up any scraps that the lyrebird has missed. I visited this male many times throughout the whole breeding season, and in that time, I passed a few humans on the trails too, most of whom were also searching for lyrebirds. In one of those fateful encounters, I stumbled across Dr Alex Maisey, a renowned ecologist and lyrebird expert. He kindly agreed to take a walk with us through the forest and answer a few questions, which I'll now use as the voiceover for the rest of the video.
So just picked up a feather here. So this is a shed tail feather. We're in a male's territory here, and he's just started to lose his tail at the end of the breeding season. So the whole tail falls out and molts, and these just shed on the forest floor. We call these the filamentaries, and there are 12 of them in the tail. So these are echidna digs here, so they're a bit different to the lyrebird's diggings because they're more bowl-shaped and they're not as shallow. They go down and out when they pull their spines out digging for ants, whereas lyrebirds scratch in an uphill direction and eject the soil downhill. So these are sort of quite recognisable as echidna here. So this is a Lyrebird Nest that has just been vacated. So this is a now disused Lyrebird Nest, and it's got these really big sticks to create a nice cradle, and then it's built out of moss and fern fibre that's woven in. And then on the inside of the nest, she lines it with these beautiful warm feathers for the single egg. So the chick would have been here for about 6 weeks, and he'll be somewhere down in the gully now, following mum around, learning how to be a lyrebird. It's really hard to tell the difference between young birds and females, so we generally would call them plaintails when they're young. But one thing you do see is when they're young, they have a little orangey rufous throat, and if they're really young, within their first year, they'll even have fronds on the head, rufous fronds, so that's just above the bill. And that fades as the bird gets older, and it takes about 4 to 5 years for the male to start molting out those brown feathers in the tail and developing the filamentary feathers, and then eventually the big lyrates at about 6 or sometimes even 7 years to maturity. So it's a long process for a male lyrebird to become mature. So lyrebirds mimic other sounds for a range of reasons. A lot of the primary reason that lyrebirds mimic is around mate choice and female sexual selection. So in the coldest months of the year, the males make all this recital mimicry is what we call it, where they're reproducing all of these bird songs in a string of mimicry. But females also can mimic a whole lot of different sounds as well. Females use a whole range of mimicry at the nest site, so in nest defence, if they want to scare off a small predator, they might be able to reproduce the sound of, say, a wedge-tailed eagle, a big predatory bird. And if you're a small predatory bird, you might actually think twice about going near the sound of this apex predator. Lyrebirds have lots of predators. In this forest we have issues with foxes being the most concerning, because foxes are introduced, they're a beautiful animal, but they're just so devastating to local wildlife. And lyrebirds, being a ground foraging bird, especially when they nest on or near the ground, they're really, really vulnerable. Cats can also take chicks particularly, but then there's a whole host of native animals as well, things like currawongs, kookaburras, butcherbirds, even a grey shrike thrush. I've had a lovely little songbird come and tap, tap, tap in an egg and eat the lyrebird's egg. The strangest sound I've ever heard a lyrebird make would probably be the human mimicry I recorded 3 or 4 years ago. And this bird was doing this whistle like... And then I thought, oh, that sounds really human. I'll get my phone out and start recording. And he went into his whistle, and then he went into this speechy, garbled speech. And it's just so clearly human. Everyone I play it to hears different words, but everybody seems to agree it's human. And it's the only time I've managed to record human speech from a wild lyrebird. Lyrebirds are what we call ecosystem engineers, and these are animals that move or change the physical environment in ways that affect other organisms. So with lyrebirds, they are engineers through their foraging, and they move about 155 tonnes per hectare per year, so 100 by 100 metres. In 12 months, 155 tonnes of soil is shifted downhill. So this process is really important for composting litter fall, for changing the microhabitats for little invertebrates that live in the leaf litter and the soil, but it also affects the structure of the forest. So we're sitting here in a relatively open area, and this has been maintained by lyrebirds coming every year or so over every little square bit of soil and litter and turning that over. So a really important process in decomposition in the forest. The biggest threat to lyrebirds would be related to climate change and bushfires, I think. In 2019 and 20, about 12 million hectares of forest on eastern Australia was burnt in those megafires, and this had huge impacts on lyrebirds. Lyrebirds prefer beautiful lush rainforests like I'm sitting in right here, and about 50% of these really important habitats for particularly breeding lyrebirds were burnt in that 1 year. Habitats that are generally too wet to burn. If these are burning, that's going to be a big problem for lyrebirds, and we need to identify those areas of refuge. So particularly the cool temperate rainforests are important for lyrebirds, and try and protect those from fire, protect those from weeds, protect them from deer, feral deer, all of those impacts that just culminate in a very, very stressed ecosystem. I've got a deer wallow in the creek here where there's stagnant water sitting there, all the algae in it, and that's where the deer have been sitting and wallowing in the water. And it's obviously it's a pollution issue for the creek. We've got a beautiful clean flowing creek, and then these big stagnant bodies of water that just sit there. So this is a sassafras tree that's been rubbed by the deer's antlers. So the sambar deer with its really huge antlers, when they're growing back they get itchy, and they're scent marking and rubbing their antler on the trees. Ring barks the tree, and eventually the fungus and rot will get into that heartwood, and this tree will probably fall down. So these are a really important rainforest tree, and we need them. So big issue in here where you get feral deer. I think our biodiversity is really threatened for so many reasons. There's threats in pollution, in climate change, in feral animals, in urbanisation, in habitat fragmentation and habitat loss. And I think as individuals, if we can try and think when we make little decisions every day try and think about how that might impact the rest of the world. You know, what is the impact of an action on our planet and biodiversity? It is a challenge. We all live very comfortable lives and we all have a large impact on the environment. But I guess the first thing we can do is try and be aware of that impact and think about ways that we might tread more lightly on the planet, I guess.